Let's look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell are on the search for a new offensive coordinator after parting ways with 2021's offensive coordinator Anthony Lynn after just one season. The Detroit Lions offense last year wasn't anything special, wasn't even anything particularly good from the offensive side of the ball, and Dan Campbell, after just 1 year of seeing it, decided that enough was enough, and they parted ways with the longtime offensive coordinator, head coach of the NFL. Now, Anthony Lynn no longer has a job as the Lions offensive coordinator, and Dan Campbell actually improved a lot as far as play calling in 2021. However, in order for the Detroit Lions offense and the Detroit Lions as a team to take that next step into the future and take that next step as an offense and as a football team to get more victories, rank higher statistically, and of course make the playoffs and contend for Super Bowls, the Lions are going to need a quality offensive coordinator, somebody that can call the plays, somebody that can scheme stuff up and have schemes to play to players' strengths, and somebody that can use our players to their maximum potential and get the most out of our players here in the Motor City. So in today's video, we're going to be going over four different offensive coordinator candidates, guys that have proven themselves in the past, guys that are up-and-coming minds, guys that are up-and-coming people and coaches in the NFL world, and guys that are highly regarded around the NFL as people that will very likely, at least this year or next year or at some point in the very near future, will get a chance as an offensive coordinator and have the potential to go much farther than that. So to start off today with the first offensive coordinator, we're going to talk about Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator formerly of the Carolina Panthers. Now, Joe Brady is a coordinator that had a ton of upside, and is a coordinator that at one point last year was interviewing for a head coaching position. Now, of course, that eventually fell through, and he returned to the Carolina Panthers to be their offensive coordinator for 2021. It didn't work out for Joe Brady. He was extremely limited, in my opinion, by Sam Darnold, Cam Newton, and even PJ Walker at times last season. His quarterbacks did not play well. They just didn't read the game well. They couldn't execute Brady's offense in the way that he needed them to execute, and I think the execution part of the Carolina Panthers is the reason their offense didn't really, live up to the expectations that they had this season with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson and CMC, and, of course, with Sam Darnold, the guy that, just couldn't catch a break with the Jets, is finally with a good OC, right? With all that talent, obviously injuries was a big part of it, but execution was a bigger part as to why the Panthers offense wasn't as effective or as efficient as a lot of people thought that it could be. I don't think it's all on Joe Brady, and I think Joe Brady, especially based off his 2019 LSU tape and even his 2020 Carolina Panthers tape with Teddy Bridgewater at the helm of that football team, and with Teddy Bridgewater being your play caller, commander-in-chief, I think that, Joe Brady showed enough in the NFL to warrant a second chance. There are already teams interviewing, already teams talking to Joe Brady about giving him the offensive coordinator position. If you want to go way more in depth with this, I have a whole video talking about potential coaching changes in my mock offseason. It's the first part of my 5-part series of the mock offseason, and I talk very in depth about Joe Brady, his fit here, why I think he'd be a good fit, and why I think the Lions should at least consider calling Joe Brady and offering him an interview for the offensive coordinator position. Now, Ken Dorsey is the next offensive coordinator candidate that I wanted to talk about. Ken Dorsey is the quarterbacks coach and the pass game coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. Formerly to that, he was a member of the Carolina Panthers coaching staff and was a guy that got the most out of Cam Newton in his 2015 MVP season. Now, since then, Ken Dorsey, of course, went to Buffalo and developed a very young, very talented, strong-arm quarterback who you may have heard of. His name is Josh Allen. The Bills' offense right now ranks 8th as far as passing offenses in the NFL. They have the 9th most passing touchdowns and the 8th most passing yards in the NFL. They are a top 10 passing offense, and after that wild card round, they look like the most prolific passing offense in the NFL right now, and they have a huge chance to go to the playoffs because of their pass game and because of their offense as a whole. But Ken Dorsey is a guy that historically gets a lot out of his quarterbacks and historically has developed some really good quarterbacks, the biggest one of course being Josh Allen, but he had a big part in Cam Newton's development into that 2015 season where again Cam Newton won MVP and took the Carolina Panthers to the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl due to their really, really good offense that was carried largely and in large part to, again, quarterback Cameron Newton. Now, I think Ken Dorsey would be a really, really good option for the Detroit Lions, a guy that has just, been around the NFL, has historically gotten a lot out of his quarterbacks. I think he can get the most out of Goff, and when we draft a quarterback, whether it be Malik Willis, whether it be Sam Howell this year, whether it be, Bryce Young or CJ Stroud next year, whoever it is, I think he can develop well and get the very most out of a young quarterback and develop him into the next Josh Allen or Cam Newton of the NFL. Now, Mike Kafka is another offensive coordinator candidate I think the Lions should give a call. He is currently the quarterbacks coach and the pass game coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs currently rank as a top 5 passing offense in the NFL based off yardage, touchdowns, and turnovers. And of course, obviously, a lot of credit's going to go to Andy Reid for that. A lot of credit's going to go to Eric Bieniemy for that. But Mike Kafka has a huge part to play in that. He is the pass game coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, meaning he is the guy that, again, coordinates the passing game. Yes, Eric Bieniemy is the offensive coordinator. He calls the plays, but you're talking about game planning. You're talking about putting together a scheme, putting together a system, putting together a game plan for the week's game. Mike Kafka is the guy that is, putting all these plays in the playbook. He is the guy that is working on these plays with Patrick Mahomes. He's the guy that helped develop Patrick Mahomes from a young, talented quarterback with a lot of upside into the NFL MVP that he became. And, he obviously turned Patrick Mahomes into the icon of the NFL very quickly in Mahomes' career. I think Mike Kafka is a guy that has a lot of upside, has worked with the bright minds of Andy Reid, has worked with the bright minds of Eric Bieniemy, and I think he is ready to take that next step into being an offensive coordinator. And I think the Lions could use somebody like that, somebody that brings those modern styles of play, somebody that brings a lot of play action, a lot of big plays, has a mentality, and draws up plays like we're seeing with Kansas City, where they are the most dynamic offense in the NFL. They utilize so much motion, so much pre-snap movement. They utilize a lot of play action. They are an incredibly tough offense to stop, and a large part of that is the offensive scheme and offensive system that Mike Kafka puts together each and every week. He has a lot of eye candy for the defenses, makes it very hard to track where the football is at, and that in large part is why the Kansas City Chiefs offense is so difficult to stop, because if you don't know where the football is, how are you supposed to stop it as a defense? Kansas City moves the ball very, very well. They've been a top passing attack for the past 3 to 4 years, ever since Patrick Mahomes took over. They have been one of the NFL's most elite passing teams in the NFL, and a large part of it has been Mike Kafka's influence on the Kansas City offense. And that brings us to our final offensive coordinator candidate of the day. Now, this is somebody that you may have heard of. This is a coach that has done a lot in the NFL, hasn't been a pass game coordinator, hasn't been a head coach or an offensive coordinator at any level, collegiate or professional, but is a guy that I think is more than capable of stepping up, and a guy that is more than capable of becoming the Lions' next offensive coordinator. Now, so far, we have focused on guys outside the organization. We focused on, the Kansas City Chiefs, quarterbacks coach and pass game coordinator. We've talked about the Buffalo Bills pass game coordinator. We've talked about Joe Brady, who currently doesn't actually have a job in the NFL. But one guy that we haven't talked about yet is somebody that's already in the building. And that guy, in my opinion, is Deuce Staley. Deuce Staley is the current assistant head coach for the Detroit Lions, as well as the running backs coach for the Detroit Lions. He did a phenomenal job in this past season getting the most out of DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, Craig Reynolds, and at times Jermar Jefferson and Godwin Igwebuike on the season. He is the guy that switched Godwin Igwebuike from a safety to a kick and punt return / running back. He is the guy that saw the potential there and switched him over. And in my opinion, we got a lot, especially in the return game, from Godwin Igwebuike. I think DeAndre Swift as a runner stepped up big this year and looked really, really good, having multiple 100-yard games. And I mean, despite the injury, having just some really, really good key performances throughout the year. Jamal Williams got a lot of good carries this year, and although he wasn't the biggest play guy, he played incredibly hard, and he was one of the bigger pickups this year by Deuce Staley. I think a guy that had a lot of influence on Jamal Williams coming to Detroit. You look at Jermar Jefferson, averaged over 5 yards a carry as a rookie. A lot of that has to do with Deuce Staley coaching him up and telling him and showing him what to do in the NFL. And then, of course, the biggest surprise this year was Craig Reynolds, the preseason addition, added just 1 day before the game against Buffalo in preseason week 1. He also had a 100-yard rushing game and was very close to another one versus the Denver Broncos' stout defense. Staley is somebody that the players love. The running backs especially love him, but the players in general absolutely love Deuce Staley. Deuce Staley took offensive coordinator positions and took interviews for the offensive coordinator position last year with numerous different NFL teams, but decided to come back and decided to come to the Detroit Lions to be their running backs coach and an assistant head coach. And I think Dan Campbell trusts this guy a ton. I think he's earned his way, and I think he's at least earned a right to give it his all at the offensive coordinator position. And I like this pick the most for a few reasons. One, the familiarity. He's been here for a year. He knows the system that's already been in place. He knows what worked last year, and he knows what didn't work last year. He knows the personnel that are here. He knows the strengths and weaknesses of Jared Goff. He knows the strengths and weaknesses of the wide receivers, of the running backs, of the offensive line, of the tight end. He understands this team better than anybody could ever do, coming from outside the organization. So he has familiarity with the players, has familiarity with his coaching staff already. The coaching staff loves him. The players love him. Nobody's going to know how to improve this offense better than Deuce Staley because he's been here. He saw what worked last year. He saw what didn't work last year. And I think just based off of that, based off his familiarity, based off the fact that the players love him, based off the fact that he's absolutely earned a spot and earned an opportunity to do this, and the fact that Dan Campbell's there to help him and guide him along the way, and if Deuce Staley takes a few weeks of adjustment, he has somebody like Dan Campbell who called some pretty good offensive games last year for the Detroit Lions to back him up, to help guide him through it. And I think the offensive minds of Deuce Staley and Dan Campbell are the two that took over last season and called the plays at the very end of the season, where the Lions offense looked so much better. So I think Deuce Staley is the best option for the offensive coordinator. You keep him in-house, you get that homegrown talent, and you get that guy that you brought in as an assistant coach. Then he moves up to an offensive coordinator, and eventually, if he's good enough, will move out for a head coaching job somewhere in the NFL. That's going to attract more coaches. That's going to attract, and Brad Holmes can point to Deuce Staley and say, that was a guy we brought in. That was a guy that was our assistant head coach, then became our offensive coordinator and got a lot more responsibility. And then we shipped him off and we allowed him to go be a head coach somewhere else. So you can use that to bring in more coordinators and more coaches saying, okay, you look at this guy, we can do that with you. We can get you that promotion. We can get you that upgrade. We can take you from pass game coordinator to offensive coordinator. We can take you from defensive coordinator to head coach. We can take you from, offensive lines coach to, offensive coordinator. You can, do so many things and offer that possibility up because you've done it before. And I think that the Lions coordinators both, if it is Deuce Staley, I think Deuce Staley and Aaron Glenn can both go on to be head coaches in the NFL, which will just attract more and more coaches to Detroit because we have that ability of putting out head coaching talent into the rest of the NFL. So in my opinion, Deuce Staley is the best option for the head coaching position for the Detroit Lions. But I do think there's a lot of really good talent out there. I think there's a lot of good opportunities for the Detroit Lions to go out, do a lot of interviews, kind of weed through what they really want, pick and really nitpick this time about what they want in an offensive coordinator, and come away with the best possible option. So with all that being said, that is life for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about the offensive coordinator search. Do you like Deuce Staley? Do you like Joe Brady? Do you like some of the offensive coordinators of college football maybe? Or is there another person that we've neglected entirely? I'd be very curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are on this OC search. But with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions!